Jupiter Broadcasting presents this program in stereo. This episode brought to you in part by GoDaddy.com.
This week on the Linux Action Show, Linux Mint 11 hits the streets. Does their bold choice to go retro pay off, or does it end up feeling old and busted? We review, and you will find out. Then, is Windows 8 just a cheap knockoff of GNOME 3? We discuss. Plus so much more. Wait for it. On the Linux Action Show! And welcome to Season 17, Episode 2 of the Linux Action Show. My name is, of course, Brian. The guy next to me happens to be Chris.
Hey there, Brian. The new line of SSE PC notebooks will once again be running Linux.
Oh, welcome back, Asus, to the world of Linux.
Yeah.
How long has it been since they did their
Runs better with Windows?
It's better with Windows campaign?
Was it a year and a half ago, I think?
A year and a half, 2 years ago?
A little bit before.
I think it was in the spring.
About
so
6 months. 6 months before the launch of the iPad, probably.
So about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So about 2 years ago, they came out and were like, it runs better with Windows, and ditched Linux on their netbooks.
We were a little butthurt about that.
We were mega butthurt about that,
Yeah.
and I was torqued off because honestly, because we both got the Asus SSE 701s.
Yep.
That first netbook that started the netbook revolution.
Came with some Xandros spin on it.
It did. It came with Xandros, and they had like a little custom launcher UI that you could disable and just run old KDE if you wanted to.
Yeah.
That thing was awesome.
Yeah.
That thing
It was a little rig.
awesome.
Started the whole netbook mania.
Yeah, it did. It's now running a BBS at my house, but on Arch, which is way better than the Xandros respin it came with.
Yeah.
But then they went to Windows for everything, and honestly, it's just not as cool. I picked up a SSE 900, which came like, 9 months after the 701, and it just had Windows XP on it.
Yeah.
Slower, worse battery life,
Runs hotter.
was hotter. Plus, running Windows XP on a netbook with a really tiny solid-state disk was just stupid. I mean, it ate up too much space. You couldn't install apps. It was a horrible experience, even if you're a Windows guy.
So you're still holding a grudge against them for it?
I'm still a little ticked off. But now they've got Ubuntu shipping.
Yeah, it's 1104.
On 3 different models.
They're going to go with Unity. It's going to be the SSE PC 1001 PXD, 1011 PX, and 1015 PX.
And they look like decent ones. They have the low end one is only $220.
$220, but you still get the latest Atom processor. Again, you're going to get 1104, and I don't know. Honestly, for me,
that's not bad.
I don't know. Dell's coming out with like this MacBook Air type knockoff. You've got the MacBook Air. You've got the IBM X series, super nice thin laptops.
Yep.
It seems like if I'm going to spend, probably the $220 one wouldn't be sufficient for me. So the next step up is $320, right?
No. The next step up was only like $270.
Well, I know, but I mean the one to the better model,
the top of the line one is $320, but it's still cheap.
Yeah, but the other $100 you get a tablet.
Yeah, but you know what? This is going to do so much more. Like here's
that's
how
what I would get one of those thin laptops for.
Here's how I look at it. Honestly, though, why wouldn't the $220 do it for you? Because like
slow.
What's it running? I mean, seriously,
it's the bottom new generation Atom processor. I didn't grab the clock.
But it's still going to be better than the old 1.6 Atom processor everyone had. So here's my thing. Most of the things you're using a tablet for are going to be web browsing, email, and playing a couple of random dorky games.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest. Games like Angry Birds and whatnot, dorky as heck. They're just dorky little games.
Yeah.
Those dorky kinds of little games run great on the old netbooks. These new netbooks are a little bit faster.
It's not about that, though. It's for me, okay, so what's the point of a netbook?
A netbook is that it's portable,
right?
It's tiny,
right?
It has a keyboard.
Low cost.
It's low cost. Yep. You don't worry about slapping it down on a desk. You don't worry about spilling your mug of beer on it because if you do, no big whoop.
The biggest point is low cost and it has a keyboard.
Yeah.
But to me, it has a keyboard.
$200.
It has a keyboard. That's not really a deciding factor for me anymore. And the portability is really important. And the battery life is really important. And the fundamentals that I can't get past is, even for me, there's a big difference between the iPad and the 7-inch Galaxy Tab. Like the 7-inch Galaxy Tab ends up going with me so much more just because it's that much smaller. It literally fits in my inside pocket. And once you have a full smart device that fits inside your pocket, that's to me that's worth a couple $100 more than a netbook.
You know, I'm with you on that.
And then you just get an ultra portable laptop if you need that extra power.
The 7-inch Galaxy Tab, like, because it fits in your pocket barely, but it technically fits. But it fits. I mean, it's as big as you can get and still put it in a pocket. And honestly, if you're a woman, it's not going to fit in your pocket.
No.
You got to have a man pocket.
Yeah.
And if you're a boy, if you're a small man and you're wearing like petite old boy clothes, not going to fit.
No.
You need to have man clothes. Like, we're talking like overalls and cargo shorts here.
Or a fanny pack.
Yeah, fanny packs will do it.
Fanny pack.
But here's the thing. You know, that's why I don't understand. Like, if I have to decide between a netbook or a tablet, netbook any day for me. Because honestly, the touchscreen, I get no new functionality out of it. Like, there's nothing a touchscreen lets me do. We've had 2 years of the iPad now. Name me one application where you're like, oh my gosh, this is revolutionary. I have to have it, and I can touch the screen, and it was never possible.
I think, honestly, I always feel very frustrated with netbooks. I feel like I hit a wall, and then I start to go, well, this was kind of a waste of $200. I should have just saved my money 3 times and got a small laptop. But with tablets, it's like my expectations out of the gate psychologically are lower. If a tablet can't do something, well, it's no big deal. It's a tablet.
You know, it's funny. I go the exact opposite approach, because if I get a netbook, I always make sure the netbooks I pick up have good video output.
Yeah.
So then when I'm like, you know what, I'm done with this one, I want to buy a new one. It only cost me $200. This now turned into my media center PC. Nice. It becomes the bathroom going to the potty PC.
I would love to see like these guys ship with HDMI outports or something. That would be hot.
That would be great.
That would change a lot.
I would go nuts over that.
Yeah.
Anyway,
all right.
I'm glad to see Asus is back. Welcome back to the fray.
Yeah, welcome back.
If you guys do another yoinks and pull Linux off of them and make it run better with Windows again, I'm going to be pissed off.
The chat room says that the netbooks are shipping with Ubuntu 10.10.
Yes,
however,
they're 10.10.
The article here says 11.04.
The article there said 10.10,
from Extreme
but
Tech.
that 11.04 is the latest.
Oh, I see. The newest version 11.4 released in April. Okay. Ubuntu 10.10 is great, and it's okay.
Yeah. They're shipping with 10.10.
Wow.
Well, 11.04. We reviewed it. We like it, but it's not ready for mass adoption right now. And even the people at Canonical agree with that.
That just seems like a pretty strong public agreement with that. I mean, that just seems like if you have this is a major OEM deal, congratulations to Canonical, major OS, your OS is going on a major hardware vendor,
it's awesome.
And they're not leading with your premier shipping OS.
Yeah, that's a whoop.
That would be kind of like a new computer. That would be like a new manufacturer signing up with Microsoft and only shipping XP, right?
That's exactly what it's like.
Not quite that bad, right?
But there's the thing. Ubuntu 10.10 was a very, very polished version of what they'd been working on for years.
10.10 is great.
11.04 is a from scratch deal, basically.
11.10 is great.
10.10 is great.
But 10.10 and 11.04 is not there yet. Jeez.
I bet you after 11.10 ships,
exactly.
a lot of people will jump on it.
I agree.
Anyway. We should talk a little bit about GoDaddy.com, because GoDaddy.com registers domain names and serves them up on the internet through the tubes. You can type in Linux when you check out from their shopping cart. Save 10% off of anything you order from them. Anything at all. If you ordered a Frisbee with a laughing panda on the top of it.
Yeah, as long as you were doing a domain for that.
It would be as long as a domain, it would be 10% off. If you get a hosting, Linux 2.0 is 20% off hosting if it's Linux-based hosting.
I like this. Chris, Linux is amazing. Readmyblog.com is available. So literally, if you wanted to, you'd click add, you bring that to your shopping cart, and then you're checking out, you select like WordPress, you're done.
Linux is amazing. Readmyblog.com.
And you could do email here, right? So you could do Chris at Linux is amazing. Readmyblog.com. I like that.
That is the best domain name ever.
Yeah. So check it out. Code Linux, save 10%, Linux 20 to save 20% on hosting.
That's awesome. And their Linux shared hosting is pretty tight.
Yeah.
I've been really happy with it.
Yeah, I like it quite a bit.
Yeah.
All right, B-Man, you before the show on the live stream pre-show said, no, Chris, only one Android pick.
Dude,
I know, I go crazy.
You had like a list of like 85 million Android apps you wanted to talk about. No, just one.
All right, I boiled it down.
The best Android app this week.
It's got to be the one that I've used obsessively all week. It's got to be that.
It's got to be that.
I've kicked off off a new project for our new show TechSnap that we launched a few weeks ago.
Lay it on me.
And you know, like what we'll do before we launch a show is we'll jot down a bunch of ideas what we want to do for that show like later on.
I love ideas.
And Bitcoin, we're researching Bitcoin. What is Bitcoin? Is it legit? Is it a fraud? Is it a pyramid scheme? Is it the next form of currency? Was one of the topics. I have been researching Bitcoin nonstop. I've been staying till 3 a.m. every night reading about Bitcoin.
For those of you who aren't familiar with Bitcoin, here's the gist of what Bitcoin is.
Oh, I was going to talk about the pick. All right.
So Bitcoin, in order to understand the pick, you got to know what Bitcoin is.
All right.
Bitcoin is a cryptocurrency currency backed by nothing. Mm-hmm. So it's a lot like the U.S. dollar. All right, go ahead, Chris.
It's you mine it. That's what I've been doing. You mine it and you solve math problems, and once you get a certain numbers of zeros in there, you get a coin. And these coins right now are going for about $18 US as we record this. So one coin is $18. I've been able to mine about 3 coins. Well, it starts to become fun because you're using the GPU or the processor on your computer and you start watching this and you want to know when you're out in the go, what's the Bitcoin doing?
Really, this is like a simplified version. You know those guys who take World of Warcraft, they mine gold in World of Warcraft and then sell it for actual money?
Yeah.
This is exactly what this is. Yeah. Exactly. There's no difference between that and this, except this takes the game
here's
part
the difference.
of it out.
Well, no, there's a really big difference in the sense that, and we don't have to get into Bitcoin, but the one interesting thing about Bitcoin is that it's an open source client and an open source protocol.
That is nice. I like that.
So that applies to Linux
that's
Action
pretty
Show
cool.
there.
Yeah.
But it's a peer-to-peer generation system. So in the case of World of Warcraft Gold, Blizzard is the central entity that controls that.
This is distributed.
This is just not there's no Federal Reserve that can control the value of the coin.
So the idea is
the coin is value established by the market.
You'd use it to cryptographically generate a Bitcoin, which takes a while, and then you store it locally.
Yeah,
and
or in a wallet service.
You're your bank. So if your computer goes down, that file is
like
gone
a safe
and
in
you
your
lose
house.
the money. Right.
Yeah,
it's
so you got to
putting
back
the cash under your mattress.
Or you could there are online wallet services. But if you want to follow what the Bitcoin is doing at any given time, you can tell how old the screenshot is because it's under $1. This just drops a little widget on your Android desktop that lets you just, when you're on your home screen, see where it's at. And then if you tap that, it gives you a nice, like a stock chart of where it's been all day.
Oh, that's cool.
It's pretty neat.
Groovy.
When I started researching this for TechSnap, the Bitcoin was around $2. And now it's over $18. So I've been pretty impressed with it. If you want to help with the research effort,
of course, you put in a ton of money back when it was at $2, right? And now you're independently wealthy.
At the beginning of my research, I was extremely skeptical of it. So I didn't put any money into it, and I still don't want to put any money into it. But if you would like to help me generate some Bitcoin for the TechSnap segment, go over to jupiterbroadcasting.com/Bitcoin, and if you just park your web browser in there's some JavaScript in the background that will use your spare CPU cycles to help mine coin for the TechSnap segment. And if I get like a couple of coins, I'm going to try to buy like a bar of soap, and then sit down on the TechSnap episode and be like, okay, I went from absolutely nothing to a bar of soap. And I want to see if it's possible. And there you go. So check that out in the show notes. MT got Bitcoin something widget. It's in the show note link. All right, B-Man, you got an Android or a Linux pick for us?
All right, let's talk about Linux for a minute.
Right.
Yeah, it's a little virtual currencies on Android, blah, blah, blah. I don't care. I don't care about any of that stuff.
Sure.
Because it's just not exciting to bride.
Right.
It's not exciting.
What
is exciting, however, and I've talked about this in the past, but I realized I haven't made it a pick yet, so I had to do it. Ardour.
Yeah, buddy.
The audio editing suite of power. It is a glorious, glorious suite. I highly recommend it. You can go, it's ARDOUR. You can go check it out at ardour.org.
An amazing powerful app.
Phenomenal. I mean, if you're looking to do audio work on the Linux side of things, this is the app.
Look how hot that thing is too. Like, look at the screenshot we're showing on the video version.
It's great. This is way zoomed out because there's you could run this full screen on multiple desktops, as this is showing 2 desktops side by side.
That would be the way to do it too.
It is phenomenal. Great plugins, phenomenal effects, really fast. It is an amazing, amazing audio editing suite that rivals pretty much anything out there for any platform. It's fantastic. I love this suite. Love it.
It's a little hard to get going, so if you use some distros like Ubuntu Studio, or there's an OpenSUSE gallery spin where you can, or I'm sorry, I'll save it for the new segment, but there's a build gallery or whatever they're calling it now, download of that.
Yeah, you can get that, and it is a little hard to get going if you're just used to using the little audio recorder application that ships with most distros. This is going to be definitely a bit more complex. But it's still pretty cool.
Is the dev of this doing this full time now?
I don't know if he's full time, but he's still taking donations.
Over the site.
And if you appreciate it, they're currently getting, and check this out, it's great. There are currently 271 people subscribing that pay monthly, and and the total subscriptions is $2,127 a month, which, let's be honest, is not enough for a dev to live on, but it's enough to dedicate some time to it every
probably
month.
Like a second gig or something for them.
It's not bad. They have their goal of June is $4,500, basically saying, hey,
and they got a little
if I can
progress bar
hit
there.
this,
they're at 10% of it.
I can, yeah. Well, June just started. It's okay.
No, I know.
But it's very, very cool. Definitely check
nice
it
to have a
out.
progress bar. I
You can
like
get
that.
it for OS 10 too, but come on, it's a Linux project.
Isn't it for Windows too?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I run it on Linux because honestly, this is for Linux.
That's what it's for.
It's a Linux app.
That's right, B-Man. I like that. So that's Ardor, and there'll be a link for that.
Now, the downside with Ardor, though, it never generates Bitcoins.
No.
You can try. Like I clicked every menu item and was like, where is it generating
You
the
could
Bitcoins?
probably generate Bitcoins on your GPU while you continue to use Ardor because it would primarily just use your CPU.
You probably could.
You'd be fine.
You probably could.
All right, B-Man, let's do the news.
What's new in the news this week?
Oh, all right, Brian, we got a hodgepodge on the news docket this week.
Hodgepodge.
And I thought we'd start with kind of a perhaps tongue-in-cheek fun story. How much GNU, Brian, is there in GNU Linux?
Like how much is actually like part of the GNU project?
This guy, he started counting the by lines of code. He said, I'm going to go through and get a rough metric size for the overall things that are in Linux based on the amount of code that the different projects have in them. Okay,
that's a cool idea.
It's
been
cool.
done before, but I'm curious. If
so he did this on Ubuntu Natty, which was released, back in April.
Yeah, a month and a half, 2 months ago.
And has only gone through the main repository. So he's just looking at the main repository.
Nice.
And here's kind of what he's broken down. And if you're watching the video version, we got a nice little pie chart of it here. He says that, astoundingly, only 8% of the source code lines in Ubuntu Natty's main repository are actually from the GNU project.
Huh. So only 8%. And this is just in lines of code. This doesn't really take into account how important any project
because
is.
Obviously that 8% includes things like GCC, which
are kind of critical in GDB and a bunch of other things. Yeah.
9% is the kernel, 8% is KDE, 6% is Mozilla, which I thought was interesting. They're not counting GNOME. If they counted GNOME in the GNU stuff, that would bring them back up to 13%. If you break GNOME out, GNOME's 5% of the code. But like a lot of little small projects make up the vast majority at 56%. I thought that was pretty interesting. So only 8% for GNU software that's in there.
So GNU sponsored software and GNU project software is really sitting out the same as KDE.
Yeah.
So really, instead of GNU/Linux, we should call it KDE/Linux.
If you break out what that GNU portion, that 8% is, 32% of it is GCC. Say I guess glib would say glibc is another 9%. Emacs is 4%.
Well, and seriously,
GNU utils is 1%.
Compiler and debugger, GCC and GDB make up about 50% on the chart of all of the GNU stuff in terms of total lines of code. That's actually kind of cool. That is kind of cool.
I'll have a link to this in the show notes if you guys want to check it out. I'd be curious to get your thoughts on it. I just thought that was a fun story because we walk around calling it GNU Linux. Wait. Want to.
Some people do. And then people yell at us when we don't. When we just call it Linux.
But that 8% is some of the most critical 8%. This blog makes the argument that a lot of that 8% though has alternatives in the...
the chat room makes a really good point. Instead of GNU/Linux, it should be called other/Linux.
Yeah, it should be because that's the vast majority.
It's better, yeah.
Now moving on to a little OpenSUSE news here, Brian.
Okay.
Have you noticed something? If you look at OpenSUSE, and in fact, let's just do, I'm sorry for you audio listeners if this is a little boring, but let's just do a little science experiment. Let's go over to Google Images now.
Gosh, I like science.
I know. And let's just do an OpenSUSE search.
Okay.
OpenSUSE on the Google Images. You get their old lowercase open, uppercase SUSE with the lizard. You'll find just SUSE with lowercase u, uppercase S,
everything else.
Lowercase e, in some cases. SUSE has been one of these distros that has struggled with branding, in my opinion. I believe these people are just a little too focused on their names. They literally have... I feel like they just spend a lot of time thinking about their names. But names are good. Names
are important. I mean, you want to get it right. Yeah. You don't want to have some crummy name. You don't want to end up naming something like Natty. You don't want to call a distro Natty.
That would be embarrassing.
That would be embarrassing and fun. I mean, funny. I mean, you just don't want to do it. So it's probably good that they're doing this.
Equally, if you had something as cool like Core in your name, like Core 2.
Well, you'd want to keep
or Core i7.
Yeah, if your name had Core in it, you'd want to keep that forever. You wouldn't want to drop it because then your distro would get a lot worse really fast.
A strong indicator of that would be a major player in the technology industry rebranding all of their primary products with the name Core in it would be a good indicator that Core
is awesome.
Yeah. But moving back to OpenSUSE, so they have taken the OpenSUSE build service, which I love.
God, why don't people listen to us all the time?
I know.
I mean, how often have we actually been wrong about this stuff?
Never.
Never.
It's science, Brian.
Never. It's simple science.
So the OpenSUSE project has renamed the OpenSUSE build service to, drumroll please, Open Build Service.
They just dropped the SUSE.
Yeah.
They or the SUSE.
And now it's going to be called OBS as the acronym.
Well, it was already called OBS.
Well, but now it makes sense, doesn't it, Brian? Now.
It made sense before. It was OBS before.
It was missing a letter before.
No, it wasn't because OpenSUSE is one word.
Oh, I see. That's true. Well, wouldn't it be open? Wouldn't it be OBS? Or they added open and they took out.
No. It's just. It used to be the OpenSUSE build service, and now it's just the Open Build service.
Right, and I think that makes sense. They took out SUSE.
And honestly, it makes sense because the Open Build service, the OBS, really builds packages for like a bunch of platforms.
Well, and they had actually approached some people. Like they have a quote here. He says, "No, I'm a Fedora packager, and this has nothing to do with me. Sorry, I'm not going to be involved with it because it has SUSE in the name."
Right.
Yeah. So that makes sense, and it's an amazing service that I think would really help the Linux community. So
huge.
We'll start using that. Okay. This was interesting because this was a story that I have kind of not really covered on the Linux Action Show because it's not really about Linux. It's about Android.
It kind of is, though.
Oh, I think it can be.
It applies.
So on their Facebook page, of all places, HTC posted a rather sort of industry-defining announcement.
I love this.
They said they are starting soon, will no longer be locking down the bootloaders on HTC smartphones.
Awesome. About freaking time.
So, of course, that means the Android modding community is a huge win, but I think really what you could start seeing is more open hardware for things like MeeGo.
MeeGo for, even
on the
older
Evo.
Maemo devices.
I'd love to throw MeeGo on the Evo or Maemo.
How badly do you want an Arch build for your phone? Come on, let's be honest. That would rock.
Yeah.
That would rock hard.
Yeah.
Most people may not want that, but a lot of us want that.
Like Project Morris in the chat room says, it's a brave step and it's a good one too. And I think it's a good competitive move against Apple.
Huge.
It's the exact antithesis of what Apple is.
It differentiates them from everyone else. It's not just them competing on features. It's saying this is our way of life. We want to be free. We want to be open.
It's kind of like the early PC industry where it was really locked down and they had to do the clean room, re-implementation of the old IBM BIOS, and then Compaq almost got in big trouble over all of that. But it forced the industry into allowing an open boot environment.
Gosh,
and now maybe we're going to see this on smartphones, which is exactly what this new platform needs.
That was great. And honestly, that's the sort of stuff that made it so that Linux could take off.
Yeah, although Mordak points out in the chat room that too bad Microsoft, there's a story that came out that Microsoft makes $5 off every Android phone HTC sells.
Yeah, because of the licensing issues, yeah.
So there you go. So they're literally making more money off Android than they do off Windows Mobile Phone, but we'll see.
Yep.
So let's talk a little bit about a new distro release you threw here in the show notes here, B-Man.
Well, it's been a little while since the Mandrake split off and the whole Mandrake brouhaha of things kind of dissolving back there. And now Magia or Magia.
I think
Magia.
I went Magia because it reminded me of Mandrake. Mandriva. I was kind of going from Mandriva.
Magia.
Yeah,
something like that. Anyway, their first version is shipped. It looks pretty cool. I mean, basically what it looks like Mandrake or Mandriva, only with some updates. And that looks really nice, and it's community supported. It looks pretty cool. So if you were on the Mandriva side of things, but you didn't like necessarily maybe what was happening, you were uncertain because of the issues with the company, this is a way to go.
This is neat. So they're keeping URPMI alive, which I actually really like. They're also keeping things like DRAC-Conf available and RPM Drake, which is awesome old Mandrake tools. And they include a migration guide to help you migrate from Mandriva if you're still running Mandriva.
Yep. Very, very cool. So their first version's out. If you're a Mandriva guy, it's definitely worth checking out. And honestly...
Whoa, look at this. Click to upgrade online link. That is slick.
Isn't that nice?
Yeah.
It's because of the URPMI stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really nice. And if you've never really been big into Mandrake or Mandriva since maybe the old days, because they were huge at one point. They were a top dog for a couple of years there. But, I mean, let's be honest. Their market share is nothing nowadays. But if you haven't used them for a while, it's still a very, very cool system. It's up to date. It's modern. And honestly, if you're maybe like a current Fedora user, but you don't like the current Fedora release, this is a really good distro to check out.
Look what they've done with the look here. It has a very distinct KDE 3 look to it, but if your eye is sharp, up in the corner here, you'll notice
it's KDE 4.
It's KDE 4. It's got the little plasma widgets thing there, right?
Yep. Basically, what they decided... Keep going. There you go. They decided that, hey, you know what? KDE 4 is great, good technology, the way of the future and all that. But you know what? A lot of people are really used to KDE 3, and it was a great system for a lot of years. So
more of an eased transition.
A nice, easy transition. Basically, it's the best of both worlds in my mind. So they did a great job with it. Definitely worth checking it out.
All right. Now, the last story, I believe, right? Is this the last story? We got the last story here? No. Oh, no.
We got some more.
We were going to talk a little bit about something that came out this week from the boys over in Redmond. But before we talk about that, let's talk about some news regarding an update to the Ubuntu Software Center, which looks like it's going to be getting a developer backend portal.
Yeah, finally. So if anyone's been following this, and I know, this is very Ubuntu specific, but it's kind of interesting to look at from the point of view of how...
Putting a software store on Linux
Putting software store on Linux and how evolved it's becoming, how refined. And, you know, if you follow, like, let's say Apple's stores on the iTunes or the Mac App Store or you know, the Windows Marketplace or any of those things, you start to notice one of the things we were missing over in this world was a way to actually submit a commercial application to the Ubuntu Software Center. It didn't exist. The old process literally was try and track someone down at Canonical who knew about it and who liked your app and talk to them for a while until they agreed that, yeah, it would be cool to get it in there. And then you work on some documentation, then you work on some licensing, and then someone will take you step by step through creating a PPA. It was a very long process, and while the folks at Canonical were incredibly helpful, like when I was going through that process with Illumination, it still was a very, very manual process.
Yeah, because it was early days.
And even updating it, there's no current way for me to update my application. What I have to do is I create, basically I upload my new version, I create a new deb, push it up to a private PPA, alert someone in Canonical that there's a new version in my PPA, and then it's up to them to move it over to live. And it's not just a review process, but the entire end-to-end is really on their side of things. So this is bad for Canonical because that's a ton of work for them.
Yeah, so now it makes a slower turnaround for updates.
They've got a website that's the Ubuntu basically developer center, where you can submit new applications and everything like that, and manage your existing applications for review. And so it's not public yet.
Do they when it goes into production? Do they plan to do like the screening thing, or are they just you submit it and it's in?
I don't know. I think they're going to do some level of screening because right now they're really doing screening because.
Because I would like to be able to have like the Ardour guy. Wouldn't it be cool if the Ardour guy could go in and submit his open source app, but just pretty up his page? Like, one of the greatest things you can do in these app stores, you can give a nice featured page with good screenshots and nice, you can put a nice logo on there. Wouldn't it be cool, though, if they would let you submit that artwork and just, even for open source stuff?
And just update it and make it
Because
pretty.
maybe there's just an enthusiast open source developer who just wants to make their project page look really nice and polished.
It'd be really great.
Yeah.
So this is very early. It's not public yet, but it's nice to see them focusing on that sort of thing.
Word. Yeah, that is really cool. That's a good direction for commercial software to go on Linux because whatever they end up with, any success they end up with this, any kind of traction they get, is going to probably be replicated in the future by other stores.
That's the thought.
Yeah, all right. So we thought we'd take a brief moment to talk a little bit about something that came out from Microsoft this last week, and that was they've actually unveiled some of the early look at Windows 8, and it includes a new UI that I don't know why exactly. It just, when I saw it, the first thing that struck me is that Microsoft seems to be at least kind of in the same school of thought that the GNOME 3 camp is in a bit. This is an HTML5 and JavaScript-powered shell environment that runs on top of the Windows GUI, like a maximized Windows, sort of like the old Media Center thing did. But it is very web-connected. It's HTML, it's CSS, it's JavaScript, and it reminds me a lot of, I don't know, it just seems to be Microsoft is sort of thinking the same thing maybe GNOME 3 is thinking, maybe Unity guys
Google
are thinking.
Chrome,
Unity,
the OS that came with the littles. I mean, basically, what all these things are doing is they're going for full screen web applications. That seems to be the future of all of these different platforms, and it's so lame.
Well, here's where I think the Windows 8 one falls down the biggest. Like, compared to GNOME 3 is a complete environment.
Yeah, it's full environment.
This,
no doubt.
is a window that sits on top of Windows 8.
Yeah.
So it's like a half-hearted attempt to do this.
Right.
Where Gnome 3 is like, nope, balls on the table, we're all in, chips are in.
Come on, Gnome 3 is just, it's just a shell that sits on top of Linux. There's no real difference there.
There is. Well, because this is just a window that you can minimize and you're just your standard Windows desktop. And they think this is the approach for this new generation of hardware devices.
Man, how cool would it be, though, to be able to minimize the Gnome shell and get a Gnome 2 desktop? Cool, right? You want that.
I don't know why we wouldn't just run Gnome 2 then.
This is what I'm saying.
I know.
Everyone's doing this sort of thing.
Here in the demo, I think,
know.
look in the demo here. You have to still use the Windows 8 standard UI to open files, and like when you're in, like here in this demo, they're showing, where is it? Here they'll show Excel, I think, at some point. Look, it's still the standard Excel UI.
It's still the standard thing.
I just don't see this as a practical, but I almost kind of think it does, in a sense, validate. Doesn't validate, that's not the right word. It doesn't validate what Gnome 3 does, but it shows that even the really big dog is still kind of thinking along the same general DNA, I think. I still see this whole web DNA in both of these things. And I think it might show that the Gnome 3 camp is going the same direction that the rest of the industry is, as in they're already leading in this direction, as in they're not getting left behind, they're actually leading. They're not going off in a tangent, they're going off in the same direction that the big boys are.
I agree, they're all in the same direction. I just hate the direction.
Yeah, there's that.
I'm just gonna go back to command line, man. I'm just gonna go terminal only. I'm feeling like an old fuddy-duddy right now. I like all of this push towards making everything simple web pages that are all full screen, which is like everything. Unity kind of wants to do it.
Yeah.
GNOME Shell wants to do it.
Yeah.
Apple likes doing it. Microsoft now likes doing it. I'm like, okay, enough is enough.
I know.
It makes me want to rebel from the place where I'm comfortable and move all the way back. I want to just go Xmonad the whole way.
Yeah, I know.
I just want to go pure text and nothing else anymore.
I know, man. I know.
And that's not me. I like cool bling. I like whiz bang. I like rotating cubes and crap. I like the whiz bang.
You know what?
But this makes me want to rebel against it.
B-Man, you know what you're doing right now? You're leading us right up to our Mint 11 review. This is perfect for our Mint. You want to call it here?
Right here.
All right, B-Man. That's all the news for this week.
Completely. Last week, we reviewed Fedora, and we were cranky? Is that a good word for it?
Well,
Cranky
we were
disappointed. Disenfranchised. Disappointed. And so, luckily, the internet is all abuzz right now with multiple distro releases. Mm-hmm. One of the big ones of which is the new Linux Mint.
Yep.
So, with that in mind, let's do a full review of Linux Mint 11.
You know, Brian, it's like Grandma always said when she wasn't making me a delicious cherry pie, turn the other cheek. And so we will do so in this episode, right? Because Linux Mint 11 to me was like a nice refreshing of cherry pie.
So she wasn't making cherry pie, and she said, don't.
When she wasn't making me cherry pie,
turn the
other cheek. Because otherwise she should be in the kitchen making me a cherry pie, right?
If your cheek isn't turned.
Yeah.
Right. Now, I want to stop for a second. And I want to point out that this is Linux Mint version 11. How the hell
did that happen?
Yeah. When did they go from Linux Mint just came out and has new codecs and adds codecs to Ubuntu, and now we're at Linux Mint 11?
You know, 11.
It's amazing.
11 has the connotation too. Turn it up to 11.
Crank it.
Yeah.
And they kind of did in this
They kind of did crank it. Now, one of the things you probably heard us mention here on the show is they're going with the traditional GNOME 2 look.
Yep. The idea is
with
they're
their
making
own GNOME
this
menu.
The ultimate GNOME 2 distro was kind of their general stated goal. This is the last hurrah, This is the last time, where GNOME 2 is going to be, modern, and GNOME 3 is kind of taken over, and KDE and everything. So let's make this the best GNOME 2 based distro you can possibly have.
Yeah,
and that's what they went for.
So one of the things that these guys do that's different than the other distros out there, and I kind of want to talk to you about this because I think you probably disagree with me, but they have the Mint menu. That's kind of remember that old sled menu from way back that they kind of took and made way better.
Yeah.
This is that, and it's to the point now. This has been like this for a little while, but see that there's on the video version here, I'm showing the Mint menu, and there's a search box in the Mint menu.
Yep.
And if you are, say, you get Mint 11, by default it comes with Firefox. If you want to put Chromium on there, you just search Chromium in that box. If you search a package that doesn't exist on the system, right within the menu,
that's so cool.
A little button comes up that says, would you like to just install this? It's not on your system yet. And in the menu of software selection, you click a plus button, and a few seconds later, Chromium is now installed on your machine.
Isn't that cool?
So you literally tap a button, Chromium, install.
So cool.
Really
I
good
think it's
system.
mega cool.
So Mint 11, they've done a few things now. I'll just tell you, I think if you're a person who really values, how do I put this? I guess I'll put it this way. I feel like when I download a distro that includes the codecs and that includes Flash and things like that, then I'm just essentially opting to go in a direction that I'm going to eventually go on my own anyway. So I don't feel like I'm giving up any freedoms by downloading those. I know for some people out there that is an issue. They don't want Flash on their box. They don't want any kind of encumbered software on their machine. Mint 11 does offer an encumbered-less version, but honestly, I think I'm just going to say at the top of the review, if that is your main thing, I don't know if Mint is specifically for you. I know they have free versions. They might not like me saying that, but I believe this distro shines as an out-of-the-box, everything-works distro.
I don't know. I think with Linux Mint, I don't see any reason to not grab the free version. I mean, honestly,
absolutely.
The codecs are great. I like having all that installed, but it's so easy to install that anyway if you install the free version of the system.
But I'm just saying, if that's a high ideal for you, that encumbered software.
They do have that version.
They do have it, but I don't know. You do have to keep in mind that
Linux Mint started as Ubuntu plus codecs.
Yeah.
That's what it started as. That was the thing. Back when it was hard to get all the good codecs on Ubuntu, back before they kind of fixed that problem, that's what Linux Mint was for.
Yeah.
And they've come a long way.
They've come a long way. In fact, let's highlight a couple things. One of the things they've done is they've gone in a slightly different direction with their software manager. They're not using the Ubuntu software store, but they're using something that kind of is reminiscent to it. You're going to feel comfortable. It's called Software Manager, and it's got nice big buttons. They've got categories, kind of like I mentioned.
And it looks nice.
Yeah, it looks real great. It must be pulling from the Ubuntu Software Center repo because it looks like it shares the same reviews and things like that. But one of the things they do is they have a better user scoring system, at least that, in my opinion.
It looks nicer.
It's integrated better in with the software selection too. So when you're looking at just the straight list, I don't know. I felt like it was a really good mix between Synaptic and the Software Center without going full on to it's a store.
You know, my issue with this is still an Ubuntu-based distribution.
Yeah.
It still sits on top of Ubuntu.
Mm-hmm.
In my mind, one of the coolest things Ubuntu has going for it is the fact that they have a store.
Yeah, absolutely.
And basically, Linux Mint takes Ubuntu and rips the coolest part of Ubuntu out.
You can add the store in. I think you can, but
it doesn't ship with it.
Right.
That sucks to me. Like, I like Mint. Like, so far, I'm gonna be honest. My experience with Mint so far has been very positive, extremely positive. My big gripe is, why not utilize one of the coolest features of the system that you're basing yourself on? It'd be like choosing to use Debian Unstable as your base and then only using RPM packages.
Well,
you know what I mean?
No,
I mean, like, and not
what you're
using
talking
Yum
about.
instead of apps.
What you're talking about is the same problem that every single distribution except for Ubuntu has now. Every distro except for Ubuntu ships without the Ubuntu Software Center.
But that's the thing. This is Ubuntu.
No,
modified.
It's
based on Ubuntu.
It's no more Ubuntu now, I think, these days than Ubuntu is Debian. I really do. I mean, it's got a lot of software on top.
But all the good stuff in Debian, I mean, you get it in Ubuntu. Like,
but you get it
the
in Mint.
architectural changes.
The only thing you don't get is the store.
Right, that's the thing.
The store,
they take Ubuntu and they rip the store out.
To me, the store is not a compelling enough feature yet. I mean, I can get Illumination Software Creator from Radical Breeze,
and you get it from multiple platforms when you do that, so it's good. But I'm looking at it. The store or any store is not going to hit that critical mass unless multiple distros are using it, unless enough people are using it, and so
that's why
everyone basically it feels like if even Linux Mint is shunning the Ubuntu Software Center's store, then no other distro is going to use it then because heck, even Linux Mint is ditching it.
Will Canonical let them?
Yeah.
Will they?
You can make a respin of Ubuntu and
can you include
brand
the Ubuntu
it whatever you want, and it still includes their software.
I don't know, man.
You can totally do that.
Honestly, the store isn't yet enough of a compelling feature for me.
Yeah,
I really isn't.
There's not enough apps in there.
There's not enough
applications in there to make it really exciting.
Like I said, like 2 episodes ago on the Linux Action Show, I, just like you, just like a ton of people out there, distro hop. And I can't tie myself to a store that only runs on a single distribution.
But that's the thing. If it was out on Mint, that would be extra cooler.
Yeah.
Because honestly, I spend more than half of my time either on Mint or on Ubuntu. So,
and if I could get a Yum repo so I could install it on Fedora, again, I'd be a little more likely.
And then, exactly. So then it gets really exciting.
Until Canonical can crack that nut, to me, it's almost a liability to get hooked into that store. And so it's not a compelling reason for me to stay there.
That's where I disagree with it. Because you got an Android phone.
Yeah. Very good point. But I have an Amazon App Store on there, and I have the Android Marketplace, plus I can sideload apps. You know what I mean? I'm not beholden to the Marketplace.
You also have an iPad.
Yeah.
They can't share applications.
Right.
Angry Birds is out for all of them.
Yeah.
If you buy it on one, do you get it for everything? You don't.
I don't really care though.
But see, that's the thing. Then why would you care about this? About the Ubuntu Software Center not being on Fedora or
because I'm willing to spend $80 in the Ubuntu Software Center. I'm willing to spend $2 on the Android Marketplace. You know what I mean?
Okay, yeah.
Like if I'm going to buy Illumination Software Creator, that to me is a different class of software.
It's a whole different thing than paying 99 cents for
maybe just like a mental thing in my mind. But
no, I get it. It's a different level of investment.
The other thing about the Androids or the iPads is while they don't cross-communicate with each other. Like when I buy something on my Evo, I now have it on my Nexus and I also have it on my Galaxy Tab.
That's true.
So I've got it on 3, and you know that's
true.
Kind of nice.
That is very true.
I can at least hardware swap. I can hardware jump, and in that time I've also gone from Android 2.1 to 2.2 to 2.3. You know, and when I go to 3.0, I'm going to bring those apps with me to that too.
That's true.
I don't know.
I guess it is mildly different. I look at it and I'm like, I feel like it's a missed opportunity. Like I don't think that Mint needs to make the Ubuntu Software Center the end-all be-all of their software.
But why not have it as an option?
But why not have it right there so people can go in and buy it?
So take a look at this screenshot here, B-Man. One of the things that Mint does to differentiate themselves is they come with an update manager. And I really dig this thing. And in the update,
it's awesome.
In the update manager, they give you the classification level of how important this is. This is a level 2 update. You need to update this.
Yep.
This is a level 3 update. Not such a big deal. And this little bit of data here is such a nice little decision indicator where I can see it immediately gives something to my dad to go by. My dad calls me and was like, so I saw there's some updates for my Macintosh. Should I install these updates? I'm like, Dad, I don't know.
How important is it? Do you want them?
Dad, I don't know, Dad. Run Mint. And that he could look at this and go, oh, well, it's number 2. I should update.
Yeah, it's green.
It's a small thing, but
honestly, this is their update manager is fantastic, and I think other GNOME-based distros should really jump on that thing because it's really nice.
They have a lot of little small tweaks. They have their own custom theme, but I want to talk about the performance just for a second.
Yeah.
So it's GNOME 2 based. And I don't know if this impacts the overall performance on my machine. But on Mint 11, and I actually honestly meant to contact the developers to try to ask them this, but I just ran out of time. On Mint 11, my laptop, my HP MV17 runs cooler than it does on any other distro that I have ran in the last year. And it runs cooler than it does under Windows 7.
Because I know you've had lots of problems with that with your laptop.
I have. The fans run so much that it drives me crazy because it's so noisy. And it's like, this is a laptop with the fans constantly going all the time.
Right.
And I'm starting to believe it's Kwin's compositor, it's Compiz, or it's GNOME 3. And on Windows 7, it's Aero. And those things are constantly hitting my GPU. And I got a big ATI 5800 in that thing that just runs effing hot.
But even with Mint 11, I mean, you've got Compiz rocking, but even with Compiz going, it still runs cool.
Yeah. It does. And the battery life is better. It seems like, and so cooler means less power, obviously, because less power means less heat. So it's obviously, for some reason, using less power. And I haven't noticed performance degradation. I literally loaded Star Trek Online in crossover games, played Star Trek Online fine under Mint.
Yep.
With frame rate was fine. Compiz has been fine. Yeah, the fans kick in when I'm gaming, but once I'm done gaming, like for example,
that's when gaming though. That's all that always happens.
Under Natty, when I would game and I would stop, the fans would never come back down. It's like the GPU would never quite cool down. Yeah, under Mint 11, no problem. That right there
is a big deal.
Yeah, that and the fact that it has on my SSD drive, it has about 15 seconds boot time. It takes 15 seconds from complete power off to on and at the desktop. I mean, when you go from that, sleep works great, but who even cares? Just shut it off.
Seriously.
Why not?
Seriously.
So I'm floored with the performance. I'm floored with the fact that it has been the best GNOME 2 experience I have ever had on a Linux desktop. I really feel like they said, you know what? It's our last hurrah with this. Here's what you guys are giving up, and this is it. I could see myself living here for a year and waiting for GNOME 3 to get better.
It's a good desktop.
Waiting for GNOME 3.2.
It is really nice. I put it on my little Lenovo tablet just to see how it would rock, and it worked really great out of the box. Really, really great. Everything worked out of the box except for the touch screen, which, come on, I'm not that big of a touch screen user. Right. But I was able to get it running. It was like, 5 minutes of tinkering around. I had touch screen going. So what I found, though, with Mint 11 was I had to do an unusual amount of tweaking to get it to where I wanted it. And by tweaking, I mostly mean installing apps and removing apps.
Yeah.
The default app selection on Mint 11, I found sorely lacking.
Well, it's got F-Spot as your photo manager, Banshee as your music. Those are good things. You like the F-Spot. right?
F-Spot's not the default photo manager anymore.
No, sure it is.
No, it's not.
No?
On Mint 11, it's not.
Oh, I thought it was.
No, it's a G-Thumb.
Oh, well, okay, the default. Yeah, but it's got F-Spot to manage your photos.
Yeah, you can install it.
Oh, I could have sworn it came installed.
Glibber's not on there either.
Oh.
See now, and these aren't bad things because again, with that little Mint menu,
yeah, it's just here, and
you start typing.
They swapped out OpenOffice to Libre too.
But that's cool.
That's fine.
Yeah, you start typing Glibber, boom, you can install it really fast. So it takes literally 5 minutes to get all the apps you need to install on it, which
and you can do it from the menu, like I did Chromium. You do
it right there.
The first things I install are always Dropbox and Chromium every time, and Dropbox usually isn't in the repo, but this time, I was able to just Dropbox and it goes and gets it.
Dropbox was in the repo?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even install it that way. I went to the website.
I know, it is nice. It's nice that
I
it's
didn't
in the
even
repo.
think to try that. I just assumed it wouldn't be there.
So, and I agree with one of the other things I tweaked is I'm not huge on the default theme. It's okay.
That's all right.
But I think they actually had a better theme in there that was a little less Mac ripoff. It was more. I feel like sometimes we walk that line a little too close. A little Mac ripoff. It's a good theme though. It's a good theme.
It's nice.
It's just not up my. It's not my theme quite.
Yeah, no. I actually prefer the themes from Linux Mint 9 and 10. So I just kind of went back to those themes.
Yeah, that's probably what mine is too.
Yeah.
So I went ahead and went with the DVD that has the codecs on there. It's like it's 800 meg DVD. It's not that big.
It's seriously, it's not that big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I would just say it is a hard choice to choose between this and Ubuntu at this point. If you're going to go with a Debian Ubuntu Derivian. If you're going to go, if you're going to go with Fedora, if you're going to go with OpenSUSE, your mind's probably already made up in that direction. Yeah. I think now when you're looking at, okay, I'm going to go app-based, I'm going to go Ubuntu-based, I really don't see the downside except for the store. If you don't want Unity, I think you should go Mint 11.
And here's the thing: you can install the store.
Yeah,
you can install the Ubuntu
look up how to do that,
Center.
But
it's pretty simple. If you go look in the Linux Mint forums, there's people that talk about it, and it's a painless process. My only concern with that is that they didn't do it by default. But you know what? Honestly, that's not that huge of a deal. If you do have an investment in applications you purchase through the Ubuntu Software Center, you can still get them all, and you can still use them all on Mint. You're not losing out. I think they should have included it, but it's okay. It's okay. It's not that big of a deal. But I'm the same boat as you. I don't see a compelling reason to not use Mint 11 at this point over Ubuntu because I'm not huge on GNOME 3 right now. I've managed to get it to the point where I've customized it and tweaked it and tweaked it and tweaked it. So now I like it more. Now I'm feeling more comfortable with it. But I still like GNOME 2 more. And this really is a great GNOME 2 distro. And it's quality, it's solid, it looks good.
Yeah.
I think previous mints looked a little better, but this version still looks very good. And hell, it takes literally 4 minutes, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, something like that to make Linux Mint 11 look exactly like Ubuntu 10.10. Because all of the themes are in the repositories because this points to the Ubuntu repositories. So if you want the Ubuntu 10.10 experience with a modern maintained distro with up-to-date kernel, up-to-date applications, and everything, Mint 11's not a bad way to go if you're coming from Ubuntu 10.10.
The other thing, they got a couple of nice little touches in there, like they have a GNOME setting a little menu they've put together. It's pretty simple, but it lets you just set some of the most basic things in GNOME that you would otherwise have to jump into gconf to change.
That is kind of nice.
It's nice.
Yeah.
So I'd say this. The other closing thing that I like a lot about Mint is that you get all the benefits of using a really widely used base of Ubuntu. And what I find is when I'm researching Bitcoin, for example, I wanted to start mining Bitcoin on Ubuntu on Mint because I kind of get them confused because you get better performance under Linux than you do under Windows.
Sure.
So right?
Of course, yeah.
So on Fedora, that would be a challenge because during my research, pretty much everything I came across had a PPA. Grab this PPA, throw it in your terminal, you're done.
Everything has a PPA nowadays.
Yes, and on Mint 11, I can still fully take advantage of PPAs just like I could on Ubuntu, but I get what I feel is a better desktop experience.
Way better. A way better experience. Actually, and I want to point this out. This actually is one of the biggest conflictions. The things I am conflicted about with Mint. The Mint menu.
Yeah.
I love the fact. I love the search bar.
Yeah.
I love the search section. I love the fact that I can install stuff from there. I hate the rest of the menu so much.
You know what I use it for? You know what? I'll see if I can.
So I'm an old diehard though. I like the old pure flat folder structure of a simple GNOME menu where I click it.
Which that's just a right click away. They still have it.
They still have it. So, but my problem is, I like the search functionality, but I don't like the rest of that menu.
Yeah.
So I find myself, I actually have both side by side.
Yeah, I did
just
that.
so I can go all the way to the corner and do search, and then right next to it is where I have the things I actually launch apps
Crossover
from.
Games doesn't properly add menu items to the Mint menu, so I had to keep the old classic Mint to run around. But see, what I'm showing here is it's got this favorites section, and at first, I'm actually poo-pooed on that. I thought that was really dumb. But really, when you combine the Gnome panel, I put 4 or 5 icons in my Gnome panel, and then you've got another 7 or 8 you can do here in the favorites, and that just about
it covers it.
Gets all of the apps I need. Really, that's about. I can fit about between that and the bar. I can fit about 12 apps that I need immediate access to.
You find that you end up using the favorites a lot then?
I did specifically attempt to this time around. I made an effort out of it, and what I found was that because the reason I did it is comparatively to Gnome 3, where you click the thing, you go up to the top menu, you go all the way across your monitor.
Yeah,
I thought, and what this is this is click, or it's super key, up arrow, enter. It's not that bad, really.
No, it seems like it's much faster and much easier to get access to.
Yeah, so I made an attempt to like this menu this time, and I don't know if I'll stick with it because honestly, to me, something like Gnome Do still feels faster. But I think I'm going to try this route. This search bar isn't quite a Gnome Do replacer for me, but it does different functionality.
In your Linux Mint 11 thing, do you still have Gnome Do running?
No, because I want to use this favorite thing. I think I'll probably go back to Gnome Do.
See, I probably about 2 days into Linux Mint 11, I threw Gnome Do back on.
Yeah. There's the kind of the small things, but I feel like I could tweak this and then stay with it for a while, and it's worth it for me.
It's a good distro.
Yeah.
I don't have all that much bad to say. Like, honestly, the fact that Software Center is installed by default isn't that bad because it's easy to grab. It's still using the Ubuntu repo, so that's not really a knock. It's like a minor knock. I'm not a huge fan of the Mint menu, but again, easy to remove, easy to throw something else back on, and it does have that search feature that is super slick, so I don't exactly dislike it. I'm just such an old fuddy-duddy.
Yeah.
I like the flat file system thing.
I hear you.
I really don't have much else bad to say. I really, really don't. The default wallpaper I don't like.
There you go.
It looks really pretty. I just don't like it.
It feels like you're searching for bad things.
That's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like this is a good system. They did a good job. The team should be really proud of what they did. I feel like this is a much more currently usable system than any of the GNOME 3 based distros are right now.
I will try to throw some links in the show notes if you want to read some other folks' reviews, but I'd love to also hear what you guys think. Honestly, I would be close to calling this one of the most perfect Linux desktops for me. It just happens to do all the things that I need. OpenSUSE build service would be nice, but other than that,
you mean the open build service?
The open build service would be nice.
Yeah.
But to be honest with you, there's nothing that this isn't accomplishing for me. It's easy to install software.
You can use open build service with Linux Mint.
Oh yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. Is like there's no reason it couldn't be there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I say congrats to Mint 11.
Yeah, it's a great release.
Now what I'm going to start watching from the Mint camp is where does Mint Debian Edition go? Where does that go? Because I tried that, also really good, but I don't see where the two are unless unless Mint 11 sort of gets phased out over time by the Debian edition over time, and that sort of becomes what they really base the distro off of. Curious to see where that goes.
I'm very curious to see where that goes.
Or if they keep them separate. It sounds like right now they're going to keep them separate, like they keep the XFC version separate.
And I'm really curious what's going to happen with the next release of Linux Mint, when really they're not going to be able to stick to GNOME 2 purely for that much longer. Not really. Yeah. So they're going to have to be moving over to GNOME 3 or something else. And I know they've talked about this a fair bit, but I'm curious how well that's going to come off. So very curious. I'm going to kind of watch it with a close eye, because for me, this solves the problem of what distro do I run for now.
Yeah.
But what happens come, say, in the late fall?
What happens when GNOME 3.1 ships?
Exactly. When all these new things are out and the next versions of Mint and Ubuntu and everything else ship with GNOME 3 by default, what's going to happen then? That's still a big unknown to me. And but for the time being, I'm thankful that Linux Mint 11 exists. So
or will the Linux Mint guys use this time to come up with a set of usability tweak tools like they did for the original Ubuntu to GNOME 3?
That's what I'm hoping. That's what I'm hoping.
Maybe they'll kick GNOME 3 into gear for the guys like us who are just not quite ready yet.
Yeah, it's kind of like with the Magia guys, what they've done to KDE 4, making it look and feel a little bit more like KDE 3. I'm kind of hoping Linux Mint goes the same route with GNOME 3.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
All right, B-Man. Well, that's our look at Mint 11.
And that brings us to the end of this week's phenomenal broadcast. I want to make a quick shout out for what we're doing over the next couple of weeks.
Okay, man.
So this week we were going to do the second part of the Cloud series. We did not, and here's why.
Well, Mint 11 was released.
Mint 11 was released, and we had to review that. If we would have waited another week, it would have been stale. We'd been dumb.
We'd be the stupid.
So we had to do that this week. Plus, still working on actually putting together a nice OpenSUSE build of in the OpenSUSE studio.
Something downloadable for folks?
That's actually downloadable for everyone to grab. And hitting hiccups.
Oh, yeah?
Turns out putting together a distro that does a whole hell of a lot.
A distro that replaces Google in the box?
Takes more than a couple of hours. So I was cranking away on it last night. And I got to say, SUSE Studio's awesome. If you haven't tried it, we've talked about it plenty of times. Go try it. It's really cool. But some of the tools I'm trying to install, they don't have packages.
Oh, yeah.
They have like really convoluted setup processes with really specific requirements. And holy crap.
You know what you ought to do, Brian?
So much work.
Is you ought to hire somebody and pay them in Bitcoins to set it up for you.
Oh, man.
Right?
You've got some of those.
Well, only like 2. But
that's like $1 million by next week.
It's almost 3.
Yeah. In no time, it'll be a ton of money.
Yeah,
so hold on to those.
Yeah.
That's as good as gold right there. Right? So that's going to come up next week. We'll wrap that up next week. That should be pretty tight. After that, you were thinking of doing like a Freenas review?
Definitely want to do a Freenas review.
That's tight.
When we were back at Linux Fest Northwest, we stopped by the Freenas booth and he said, okay, guys, now in a couple of days, this is a few weeks ago, a couple of days, Freenas, a new version of Freenas is going to hit, and it's the biggest change we've ever done. We've got a ton of new features in there. It
does have a lot of new features.
Yeah, and so we got to talk about Freenas. We got it. And it's one of the things I get some of the most email about. So coming up in a couple of weeks, you're going to see a Freenas review from us, which means I need to get downloaded and get that thing cranking.
You need to.
Yeah.
You got 2 weeks, man.
I know, and I love my B3, so I'm going to have to figure out how to live with the B3 and a Freenas box for a few days.
We can't give up the B3.
No.
That's too tight.
No, I know.
You just can't do that.
I'm going to have to put less important stuff or more important stuff, and I don't know, I'm going to have to juggle. I'm going to have to juggle, B-Man. Things I do.
That sounds way too hard.
The things I do.
Way too hard. So if you want to get a hold of us over at jupitercalling.com, that's forum.
Yeah.
Twitter, you can find us on Twitter, and that's exciting. Facebook.com/JupiterBroadcasting.
Yeah.
That's a Facebook thing. So if you want to give up all of your public information, you want to be like, you know what?
Put your phone number in there, maybe your birth date.
You know what, Mark Zuckerbergy? You get all my infos.
What you want to do
infos
is do a little status update and just put your social in there. Just put your social in there.
Yeah, type in your social, and then you can go ahead and follow us. Oh, God.
We got links to all this stuff in the show notes. We don't have to tell them all about it.
Yeah, you guys, there's links all over the place. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We got a lot of stuff going on. The cool thing is, whether it's cool or not, spring is pretty much over, which means new distro season is coming to a close.
I thought you were going to say it's about to get really hot in the studio, because that happens too.
It really is.
When we first did the studio thing, the first few episodes, we had a jug of ice water here. We'll see if that comes back.
It was awful. Honestly, when we first put this studio together, I immediately thought, dude, this was a terrible idea.
Good news is, though,
this is just a terrible idea.
We've upgraded over since the last heat wave. These mics, we'll probably be able to run a fan with these mics.
Oh, and not hear the fan.
Yeah. So that'll be good.
Man, one can only hope.
Yeah, I hear you.
Holy moly. Last year it was sweltering. But what was I talking about?
I don't know. I think we were rapping.
I think it was done.
All right, everyone.
So we don't have a lot of new distros coming up.
Oh.
New distro releases really aren't hitting again, including new KDE releases, Gnome 3. All that stuff's coming in the fall. So up comes the summer months. The cool part about that is now we get the opportunity to not review Mint and Ubuntu and Fedora and SUSE. We can work on the cooler stuff.
Like the Freenas and the cloud stuff.
The Freenas. Yeah. Or like when we did the Xmonad review. Now we can review weird crap. So if you have any weird Linux crap that you would like us to talk about, head on over to Jupiter Colony, mention it in there. That's where we're going to be kind of mining for what people want to hear about.
Oh, not Bitcoin, sorry.
Not Bitcoin. Oh. So definitely head on over there and let us know anything you think is really cool. Weird distros, weird window managers. We want to hear about it. So let us know. And
Jupiter Colony is the place to do it.
It might make it into a show. It might. We are very, very picky, but it might.
You never know.
You never know.
All right, everyone. Well, thanks so much for tuning into this week's episode of the Linux Action Show.
It's over now.
And we'll be back next week.
It's over. Dude, did you get some eyebrow work done?
I've been exercising.
They look like bigger.
I've been exercising.
They look like big now.
I got big eyebrow muscles.
Dude, look at that. They're just all moving all over and crap.